Welcome back to STEMXX Chats. Today we will be going over tips and tricks for works and studying, and how to maximize your work output.
In order to work and study well, it's important to develop an approach. It can be summarized as maximize your outputs, not your inputs. Needless to say, this does not mean that you're not working hard. It just simply means that you have to reframe the problem. Not necessarily studying 24 hours for every waking hour, but to study well those hours that you are going to be putting into study and make sure that you're accomplishing your goals along the way.
Don't take 1 hour to do something that takes 30 minutes. Things tend to take us as long as we let them. By squeezing out your work time and packing as much as possible, we can accomplish more in less time. This does a few things. First, it instills a mentality that will help us work and study smarter. Second, it will keep us actively engaged and it will create a work flow mentality. It will also leave us more time to do things we like.
In STEM fields, studying smarter often involves quizzing yourself, working through practice problems, and taking practice tests. For subjects that have content that requires reading textbooks or primary sources, reading through word for word when you're not retaining anything isn't going to do any good. Instead, scan for an outline of the content. Read the beginning, the subtopics, and the end, and start thinking about it. Posting questions to yourself and thinking critically so that you're more engaged with the material when you read it more thoroughly a second time through. This is like setting up buckets in your head that can be filled in with content as you go. Once you've read it, recap mentally what you've learned. Similarly, to get the most out of your classes, it is good to prepare ahead of time and then review the material within 24 hours afterwards. I recognize this can be difficult and isn't always possible. But if you schedule it in your plan and make it a priority, eventually become a habit. It is also well worth the effort to get an inside scoop and learning experiences from people who have gone through those particular classes before.
Working smarter in STEM often involves knowing when to get input, knowing when to do more research and analysis, knowing when to put more elbow grease and crank up on the research and the experiments, when to dive in, or when to take a pause and reflect on what we're doing. Reflecting on this from time to time is very helpful, and talking to our friends or colleagues who are more senior than us can help us gain a new perspective and new ideas on how we're managing things and give us new ideas. All of this can help us save a lot of time.
In order to make this happen, it's essential to make a schedule and follow the schedule. Making a schedule is an art that we get better as we go. Different approaches work for different people, but it's good to at least have one calendar type schedule that is longer range and one that is shorter range. For longer range, planning it would encompass the next 3 months, and then in broader strokes, the next 6 months, a year, or even 5 to 10 years. Obviously, the further you go out, the less definitive things are, but it's good to think with long-term visions and direct today in light of that.
Set your priorities. Everyone has time for those things that matter most to them. And at the end of the day, we end up doing those things that matter most to us personally. So it's important to think deliberately through what those priorities are with a long-term view in mind, the things that help you be a good person, to develop your personality, to take care of your family, and to develop good relationships with others are all important. So they need to make it on the schedule. Time for prayer or meditation or attending worship services, time for inspirational and nourishing reading, and time for processing things is time that is never wasted. Centering yourself and keeping yourself heading in the right direction can save a lot of time and suffering at the end. Along with setting our priorities, it is important to keep our non-negotiables clear. If you want to be a consistent person and achieve your goals, some things in life have to be non-negotiable. There are tasks that we need to do whether we like them or not. The more we embrace this and train ourselves to enjoy the things that are good for us, the better life gets. It also has an amazing effect of decreasing the energy required to make decisions. Every decision requires some energy, and we're more efficient when we can make some decisions effortlessly. Similarly, it can be helpful to have patterns and routines established in our day. When enough is always the same, we have more mental space for what we need to confront and what comes at us unexpectedly. Some people are more orderly than others. Some people thrive in chaos. But it is good to strive a balance throughout our day to help us be more effective at our work and school, and on our teams when we work with others. The more team-oriented our work is, the more we'll need to coordinate with others and be someone whom others can work with. Schedule in time for sleep. Sleep is essential, both psychologically and mentally. During sleep, our brain literally cleanses itself from toxins. It is important that you give it time to do this. It is also rewiring itself, which is why it's good to study a night before a test, even if you have to wake up early to finish studying. The best result is to go to sleep early and wake up at the same time each day. Even though this may be a challenge, it tends to pay off in multiple ways. Start off with what's harder. When we start off with what we like to do the most, but it's not necessarily what is due first or what's the hardest, we risk not finishing these tasks. By knocking off what's hardest, we are able to push through the rest of our checklist. Make sure you prioritize your tasks and be realistic about how much time each task will take, while challenging yourself to squeeze out the time. Have protected time for work. Find at least one chunk of time where you can really concentrate. No cell phones, no social media, and no distractions. Have protected work. Find at least one chunk of time during your day when you can really focus. No cell phones, no social media, and no distractions. Just quality work. I would recommend you to have a 2-hour block of time and when you're the freshest in the day, but also as early as possible. Often this type of focus will leave us refreshed and eager to work throughout the day. Find balance amid what you have to do. Some amount of balance in life is necessary. Take high quality breaks, not just scrolling through social media, but breaks with people. A walk outside or exercise, something that's uplifting. It is good to learn how to schedule so that you balance the harder tasks with shorter breaks or activities that take less effort or are more enjoyable. For example, after a big deadline, take a long way home. Wait to check your email until after you finish that assignment that is due tomorrow, or after a setback or bad news. Spend some time with your family or good friends, or even take a dance break like I do. What works for you? What other tips do you have? Share with us in the comments below. We love to hear what you think about these tips and if they were helpful. Please like and subscribe to hear more helpful tips like these.